Hoy there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to week 4 of Football Talks. I am joined by Bill. Say hello, Bill.
Hey! Oh my god!
Alright, we are now week 4, week 3 is in the books, and I had a lot better record in terms of predicting. I only got 4 games wrong. And Bill, we had our first shutout of the year, and it's against the team you just are glad. The
I'm
Bears were the
glad
first victim. Could be
the
the first of
Bears
many.
the Bears got put down.
But
Oh jeez.
all the praise about Cam Chancellor is like, oh, it's because of him coming back. I think it didn't
No.
matter. I don't think it mattered.
I mean, seriously, the Bears had Jimmy Clausen at quarterback. Jimmy Clausen.
And John
That-
Fox is still the most conservative coach in the NFL.
And you have a 32-year-old running back in that offense. I mean, it's going downhill really badly in Chicago. Their defense is still god awful. So
They're well on the way to a first round pick. You know who's in the race with them? Baltimore, which that's not going to happen. They're going to win some
Nope.
games. In fact, they might win
Exactly.
this week. It's Baltimore, New Orleans, which I could very well see. And another team which I won't say for you, Bill, but I don't think that'll happen because the schedule softens up much more after this next game. I think no, after the week after week 5, their
Because
schedule
I
softens.
have a mega rant about said team.
Bill,
But that's for later.
Bill, you got to tone down the rants. Seriously.
Oh man. I'm the it's gonna be cool, calm, and concise.
Bill, hey, at least Detroit Tigers beat my fucking Rangers this time. I don't know if they beat them today again, but no, I can't allow it, Bill. Tigers won't get in. Let my Rangers in.
The Tigers are already eliminated from contention.
Yeah, so why are you ruining the Rangers' hopes? Let us win.
The Tigers are playing spoilers. That's how baseball goes, especially in the last week with teams that are not in it. They like to play spoilers.
I'm not letting it happen. All right, so we have a somewhat full slate, though really there isn't much to talk about apart from a couple of games. And we're going to start with one
Yep.
that does not have much to talk about, and that's the Cowboys and Atlanta. And to the Cowboys' credit, the Brandon Weeden stuff should go away for now, but to be fair, Atlanta's defense isn't all that great. It only shines well because it doesn't stay on the field for too long. Because Atlanta's offense is out there doing work with Julio Jones, catching 2 touchdowns and scorching the secondary from Dallas.
Yep.
And,
Which is the weakest part of the team is that secondary.
yep.
And if you can get at it, it's going to be bad news Bears.
Yeah, but usually what they do is they make sure they don't let you go that deep, but it's Julio Jones. Of course he can go
Yep.
deep. Unless, against the other teams, I mean, to the Dallas Cowboys' credit, they never really let Odell Beckham go more than 20 yards.
Yep, and they did a really good job at containing Odell Beckham. And really, this was another test of that style of defense. You need to cover people like Julio Jones, like you did Odell, because Odell is a big, tall receiver. Julio Jones has a similar body type.
Well,
Sort of
here's
like
the
a
difference.
Calvin
Julio
Johnson.
Jones is a much more proven wide receiver, and he's actually honestly way better than Beckham. Everyone's so fascinated by the one catch, and he keeps making some great catches, don't get me wrong. But I don't see him better than Julio Jones, Demaryius Thomas, or Megatron, who actually today's his birthday.
Oh, damn! I
He was so
my
close
top,
to breaking Randy Moss's record.
My top 5 would be Calvin, Dez, uh,
Demaryius or Julio? It's between those two, honestly.
Julio Jones, Demarius, and then the 5 spot would be a fight between Odell Beckham and Jordy Nelson. Actually,
Huh. Actually,
even though I despise Jordy Nelson, he's still a damn good receiver.
can I put Gronk in there? He's better than most wide receivers anyway.
I mean, if we count tight ends at the receiver position, Gronk would eat alive everyone except for probably Kelvin in terms of targets and Dez for targets. That'd be the top three. It'd be Kelvin, Dez, and Gronk.
Oh
The
yeah.
Gronk.
So we'll be talking about the Gronk later. Well, not as much because it wasn't much of his game as it was other people, but we'll get to that one way later. But yeah, Dallas put up 28 points at the half and just didn't do anything after. They were like, it was like with Houston's first game, a tale of two teams. The first one came to play, and they came to just not let Atlanta do much. In fact, Atlanta didn't do much in the first half. They put some points up, but it was in the second half. So really, Atlanta's a team that builds and gets more threatening as time moves on. So Houston better have taken notes. Do not, in fact, actually get more aggressive in the second half, because that's when
And
Matt Ryan shines.
and the other thing is that Atlanta changed up their game plan on the Dallas Cowboys. They started using Devontae Freeman and started running the football on the Dallas Cowboys, which is counter to conventional wisdom on that defense because you would expect that the Cowboys defense would actually play decently well against run and not be really good against pass. Well, once Devontae Freeman started getting the football and started moving the football and getting touchdowns, they had to respect Devontae Freeman, and then there it goes. Play action passing, getting the ball to Julio Jones, and it just was a snowball effect in that second half.
Yep, I would say as things stand right now, Julio Jones is the best receiver in terms of yards. Well on the way to making an offensive MVP case.
I mean, Julio Jones, he's been very vastly underrated as a wide receiver, and it's kind of refreshing to see him explode upon the scene. I mean, sure, you when you think Atlanta Falcons, you think Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, but in terms of nationally, Julio Jones doesn't get the respect of being like, oh, he's a top 5 guy. You always hear about him, oh, he's a top 15 guy. He's a top 5 wide receiver, and that's period.
Yeah, it's just it took till now, and with the Atlanta Falcons red hot at 3-0 right now, which they can easily go 4-0 depending on how they do this week, but they will be playing a much better defense in Houston. Though Houston
Right.
better double cover him, because you have to contain him as much as you can.
What they really need to do is double cover Julio, and they need to make sure that the coverage is a out like an inside out type coverage, so that way they can still get at Devontae Freeman as well. So that way they can kill two birds with one stone, and that's a literal pun and a cliche at the exact same time.
Yep, that is. But back to Dallas, the running backs showing well, at least in fact two teams here who actually all three teams here let players go that people said that's a bad idea. Even I thought some of them were bad ideas. Well, one of them at least. And so far each team is just ha ha ha. I am so glad I freed up that money. And the
Yep.
one player was DeMarco Murray. He didn't play today. And even then, he wasn't doing much. Now, that could very well change by the end of the year with all three of these players, but as things stand right now, Cowboys are enjoying that Murray's gone and freed up space for other players in terms of buying money. The Lions are very much enjoying the Dominican Sue gone because it didn't matter. He's not doing much either way. And with Houston,
Exactly.
Andre Johnson only had one target. It was a catch, but it was negated by a flag by Indy. He's very
Yeah.
well underway for 33 catches this season. And you know what Bill O'Brien told him that made him leave? You're probably going to get about 40 catches this season. That was
Yep.
generous.
I mean, he to be fair, Andre Johnson went to the wrong offense because Luck likes to throw the football all to different receivers, and Andre Johnson is over the hill. I mean, at 33, a lot of football players' pride gets in front of their brain, you know? And the brain would say that you're losing a step. It's time to learn how to run some routes at a shorter distance, maybe take a slot receiving role. And then his ego's like, no, I'm a number one receiver. I can still run up the sideline. You can't do that anymore. You're just not built for it. Moncrief and T.Y. Hilton are that role. Andre Johnson is a slot receiver at best in that offense.
Yep. That's pretty much what Nate Washington is. He's about the same age, and he's at least been respectful of that. Makes some good catches, though. In fact, the Texans game would have had another score if he didn't stop running so soon. Like, he stopped running too early, which they might say is a miscommunication, but I'm surprised that dude took it back. But yeah. Actually, well, I'm really done with Dallas. Unless
one last thing I want to say is, getting back to it, is I feel like it would be a lot easier for Brandon Weeden had he had Dez Bryant, because then at least he has a little bit of a security blanket in terms of, throwing and catching.
Dez will be there soon. He'll be there much faster than Romo. Yeah.
Jason Witten is dealing with way too many injuries right now, and I just he could get hurt at any time. He was dealing with 3 ailments in that game.
Yeah, but he wasn't the only one with some injury issues, though. He came back. Sean Lee, you mentioned him earlier before we started recording. If Sean Lee's fine, the defense is still fine.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell when he's there and when he's not there. And when he wasn't there, the Cowboys' defense serve was like, eh. And when he came back, he gave them energy again. It was a high motor defense again.
When he's on the field, he plays like a top 10 linebacker.
Yep.
That's what they need. That's where he's in the same boat, like I've said, with Brian Cushing. They get hurt for a long enough period of time, they're gone. Unless they're out with a concussion for 1 week, they're going to be gone. They're not coming back to Dallas or Houston. What if they switched? Wouldn't that be interesting? Dallas would have more of an even more aggressive defense, and Houston would probably have a more balanced one with Sean Lee, because Sean Lee is more patient, whereas Brian Cushing's the more headstrong versions. They're like 2 different versions of a linebacker. But
yeah, Cushing's more of an instinctive and very spontaneous.
Yeah, but the one other thing now I just remembered about Dallas, they could see Weeden was protected very well at the beginning, so I said to you, they can very well win 2 or 3 games with him, and they'll be fine. They just need to win at least 1 game to be okay.
And
what?
The other thing that they need to be able to do is run the football, because the minute they started getting into throw mode for a lot is when they started getting Brandon Weeden under pressure. So they need to be able to run the football, because the easiest thing to do is to block for running, and the hardest thing to do is block for passing. And they need to run the football. That is numero uno.
Alright, so Bill, now I'm going to ask you, is Dallas still in trouble from the Eagles or maybe the Giants, or do you think they can still they can still win it? If the Eagles and Giants don't play that well.
I think it's a 3-team race. And whichever team wins is going to be I feel like it could be a 9-7 division crown, and any of the 3 could take it.
They won't be the only one. I've told you the AFC North is going that way.
I mean, if you really look at that division, there's not going to be one team that's going to run away with the division. Especially with the Eagles and Sam Bradford at quarterback.
Yep. I'm pretty sure they're going to switch at some point to Mark Sanchez, and honestly, I say he's better. But, oh well. I don't care. They could stick with him as long as they want if he's going to be not that great. Because the Eagles only won because of 5 turnovers. I don't know how you lose a game with 5 turnovers for you.
Right.
But okay, so let's move on to another division, which is looking very clear who's going to get it.
Uh,
Detroit
and it
lost to
pains me to
Denver,
say it.
24-12. Ugly numbers, but
Yeah,
they missed two-point conversions. They missed a kick actually because of the kicker having
it
food
just got
poisoning.
blocked. Yeah, and plus it just got flat out blocked.
Yeah, at least someone stopped him because the new rule would have let him go all the way, and he almost did. So
Yep.
that was nice because at least they don't get like if it were a field goal attempt, that would have been right there. Denver would have started right there because it's an extra point. You have to get it first try, the perfect
Yep.
run. So be thankful that wasn't a field goal attempt.
I mean, to be fair, really it was an ugly game the entire way. The referees were terrible. The referees weren't terrible. It was more that they threw the flag for everything. And there was some really questionable interpretation of rules for both teams. So both teams kind of got shafted by the referees.
Yeah, there was a questionable
But
pass interference call for that worked for Detroit, which I was okay with, but even I had to think, wow, what did they see? I didn't see anything that was worth throwing a penalty over. You know what game it made me think of? Houston and Carolina, because at the beginning, over the first quarter, nothing happened, but towards the end, then points started coming in. That's where you know the second half more points will be coming. So,
but
what were you gonna say?
I'm gonna say this: the the Detroit offense, either Joe Lombardi needs to start calling some runs and stick with the running game for longer than one quarter. He needs to have a balanced offense at all times. If he doesn't have a balanced offense, he deserves to be fired because that was a ridiculous and pathetic display at the running back position. You have Amir Abdullah, a great stop and cut type of running back, and you're not getting him the football. He's explosive. He scored on his first play from scrimmage in the NFL. He switched and went straight ahead and got a touchdown. Now you're telling me that you cannot call a running play for Amir Abdullah and put him in a position to succeed against a Denver defense. And sure, the Denver defense was great. The Denver defense was really good against the Lions. I won't fault them, but it's up to Detroit to at least put the fear of the run into the Denver defense. Don't run it stupidly with Joique Bell. And another thing, Joique Bell, when he runs, he needs to run and hit downhill and just go. He has this habit of wanting to jump and stop. Don't stop. Just go, man.
It will
Just
cost
go
them.
straight ahead.
That touchdown he got, was it him or Theo Riddick that got that one? I think it was Joique Bell.
I think it was Joique, but I mean,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The touchdown run where he did the leap of faith. Nearly cost him.
yeah,
But it was because the ball crossed first. Because once the ball goes past the line, what happens after will never matter.
exactly. But what I saw, there was one play. He he had a hole, okay, in the Denver defense, and he jump cut and you know how they jump stop to try to cut it back? Instead of going through the hole that was in front of him, he jump stopped and tried to cut it back into the defense. Don't do that. Just go straight ahead, man.
Be patient, find a hole, don't go through the
And
line.
my last thing I want to say about the Detroit Denver game was that Matt Stafford, uh, he played embarrassingly bad. His metrics, uh, which are statistical analysis, okay, and 0 is about average, and anything above 0 is good, and anything below 0 is bad. He was a negative 5.8.
How high
Okay,
and low?
that's
What's the
just,
highest and lowest they can go?
I think it was like, I, the metrics go to like 20 or something. Like one of our Kelvin Johnson was one of the highest players at like 2.8.
He was so close to breaking Randy Moss's record
Yep.
for.
But
But oh well, still all time favorite, all time pro. But
Matt Stafford needs to cut down on the interceptions. He needs to cut down on the fumbles, and he needs to cut down on the turnovers and just make quick decisions. The reason why they almost won that San Diego game, he was getting the ball out of his hand fast. Get the ball out of your hand fast, recognize the defense, and go for it. You just can't not do that. And there we go.
well, all right. So Bill, when's the last time an 0-3 team made the playoffs?
1997 or in 98, it was the Buffalo Bills. And before that was the 95 Detroit Lions, which had a Hall of Fame running back and a terrible quarterback.
So and now they have a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Now they have a Hall of Fame wide receiver and a damn good running back in Amir Abdullah, and they could have a damn good quarterback if he gets his head out of his ass and starts playing actually good.
Okay, Bill, I have to be honest now. I told you what would happen if they lost this game. They needed this
They're not
win for
making
the
the
sake of
playoffs.
momentum. They needed to win this game for the sake of momentum. And what?
I'll put it this way. I refuse to pick a Detroit. I'm refusing to pick Detroit until they actually prove something to me. Because
Even if they play a crummy team like the Bears?
even if they play a crummy team, I would rather be embarrassed by the Bears than have a Bears. I don't want to be the one that's jinxing the team either.
Oh, I've been wrong about games that I wanted to be wrong about, and it happened. Like the Eagles-Cowboys game, even if it cost me a quarterback. But,
yeah.
but, okay, so to finish what I'm saying, I told you what would happen if they lost. I'm not picking them for a playoff spot. Or to win the division. Maybe there's a playoff spot, but it really depends on the non-division winning teams I have. It depends on depends on Dallas and Philly, because either one can take it, and I think only one of them will take a playoff spot with the way they're all playing. I have Arizona and Seattle, I think, are both having a good shot at the playoffs. Actually, no, Seattle has a good shot. Arizona, I almost have them locked in I have them locked in right now as the number one team. Green Bay and Atlanta. So it really depends on how Carolina does, which I see them plummeting because after their bye week, which is next week, by the way, after this next game against the Bucks, they have a rough schedule. They play Seattle, they play Philly, they're going to play Dallas, which I think Dallas could very well beat them because they have the better defense and they have the better wide receiver and tight end spots and running backs. So Carolina's, I think, is one that's going to drop a lot. Philly, of course, like I said, could be bad. And it comes down to the Lions, Seattle. I want to say the Rams, but maybe not. Can't tell. To their credit, their defense is a top 10, top 5. They did their job holding back. What?
I mean, if they stop setting their turf on fire.
Yeah. But I mean, they held the Pittsburgh Steelers to 12 points, which you had Le'Veon Bell there, which should have put them like 20 points total at least, but it didn't work. So, kudos to the Rams defense. Just the offense didn't do anything. Where's Todd Gurley? But it's them and either the Vikings maybe, because they're actually building shit up with Peterson and who's the other team that I had in my mind? Oh, New York, but I don't think the Giants are all that in a bag of chips. I don't think they're that great. But maybe because I don't like them. But yeah, it comes down to those other teams, how they do. But if not, I don't see Detroit getting into the playoffs. This is going to be an ugly year because I mean, we haven't talked to other games, but there's so many injuries to crucial players. So many teams that should be winning games just end up losing them. So
Yep.
I won't. There will
So
probably be 2 or 3 above 11 wins.
yeah, this is a really weird year, and I feel
Super
the
Bowl
AFC
50.
is really. I feel the AFC is really strong
I have them
compared to the
really
NFC.
strong. The it's I've I've said it before now. I have now, because Detroit lost, I now have Arizona and New England playing. And I'll say why Arizona will have the first seed later at a later time, but yeah, I have nothing else to say about Detroit aside from should have given the ball to Calvin Johnson because he was actually getting more of an edge against Aqib Talib. Golden Tate made some good catches, but it wasn't enough. Should have relied on the running backs a little more, like just rotate them a little more. Too much on Joik Bell. Not enough of Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah. Defense did okay. To their credit, they did some good, but it was just the secondary. The front seven of Detroit is fine, but they're in a similar position as Dallas in terms of secondaries. Their biggest weakness is their secondaries.
Their biggest weakness is Darius Slay.
Let 2 crucial passes go. And I can tell you when the Lions' fate was sealed. It was that it was
It was right before halftime when they threw that 4th and 1 and scored that touchdown. That's when their fate was sealed because that killed them.
that did kill them, but I know
killed.
which one that for sure ended all hopes. 2 spots actually. There was one where the Lions were building momentum, but then they got held back by a holding penalty. Could not come back from that. And then another where Stafford supposedly fumbled the ball. I don't think he fumbled because he was moving his arm forward. That should count as a forward pass, meaning it's an incomplete pass.
Yep.
So, but the refs made some really questionable calls in this whole game. Like I said, they did one for Detroit and they did one against Detroit. So I'm not gonna say, oh, the refs are entirely against Detroit,
Right.
because you and I both agreed they fucked over both teams in some regards.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Both teams got screwed.
But let's move
But-
on to the AFC side of things.
Oh man.
So Houston won a game, an ugly game against the Buccaneers, 19-9. To the Buccaneers' credit, their offensive line, which is to me the worst in the league, did not allow Winston to get sacked once. Nobody sacked him. Clowney didn't. Wilfork didn't. Watt didn't. This was actually a bad game by Watt's logic, or by Watt's standards. Did not get a sack. Got 3 or 4 tackles, one for a loss.
Yep.
But you know what impressed me though? There's a Vine going around showing a little close up of what Winston does. I'm not going to play it for risk of the NFL hounding my ass and killing me. But what did happen was, I will show it to you. I could show it to you, Bill. In fact, I will. Don't worry, there's no audio. You don't even need it. You just need to see it. I should have showed you this sooner, but I just thought I just realized this was definitely worth bringing up. And what my theory is of Clowney getting his first sack this season is likely coming true.
Okay,
Let me know when you
let's
see it.
This.
Clowney's on the right before the snap goes.
Okay. And he pushes and turns and boom.
That's very good.
Down.
I don't know if that was a tackle for loss by his part, but man, I said if he was just 80% of what he was, that is still a great player. But it's only a matter of time, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen this week against the Falcons when he sacks the first quarterback he sacked in the preseason, Matt Ryan. He's not going to want to get up.
Clowney is he's getting close. He's getting very close.
Every week
to being
he's getting better. What?
And he's getting close to being that player he was in college, dominant on all phases of the game. And that's the scary thing about the Houston defense is they have 2 very dominant defensive ends in Watt and in Clowney, and you can move them next to each other. Who the hell are you going to block on one side of the line? Are you gonna block the defensive MVP, or are you gonna block this guy that could be a defensive MVP?
Who's ever imagine if you had
Good.
a case where for like be it offensive or defensive, two players from the same team are nominated. Like
I mean,
let's throw an example. Let's just throw an example out there. Like let's say we had Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton for offensive MVP. This is an example, of
right.
course. At Luck, we'll get the main MVP because he's a quarterback. But you get what I
Yeah.
mean. So it's like, wouldn't that be interesting? You don't see that very often, where two players of the same team are said these two are so great they could win the damn. They would fight each other for the fucking trophy.
Now think of it this way: two players at the same position fighting for the same trophy
That's that's what,
on the same team.
and that's what's going on. But first, Clowney needs to get a sack before you can even think about that. I'd like
I
that he's
mean,
progressing because as long as he finishes healthy, you build that shit into next year, which they will have a much tougher schedule as Houston will play the AFC West, which will be likely less one Peyton Manning, and you have to deal with the NFC North, which one
yep,
game's a
and
fucking scrub, one team's a fucking scrub, and the others are they can keep it interesting.
Stafford, Rodgers, and an improving Teddy Bridgewater.
And returning Adrian Peterson, who's very likely going to get comeback player of the year. It don't matter if Sean Lee fucking gets 10 interceptions. It's like
Oh yeah,
Peterson. His name rings more than.
I mean, obviously an offensive player's gonna win that. But
Yep.
getting back to the Houston game,
Yes. Um,
uh,
Mallet showed much better, a little bit better poise. People still say he played a little garbage because he forced some throws. Not a costly interception because I think they got it back. It was a ball that was blocked by a hand, and it got picked off right there.
right.
But
I mean,
Alfred Blue did it again, another 100-yard game against the crummy defense. I am happy for him. It still shows he needs to do this shit against bigger, better teams like Atlanta, which he'll probably have his chance today.
right, yeah.
But
I'm.
what?
I'll put it this way: the Houston offense is. I feel like it's as good as it's going to be right now until Arian Foster gets back.
I wouldn't just say until Foster comes back, until Dwayne Brown and Foster come back.
Yeah,
And
until both of them get back. And the other fact is that had you had Brian Hoyer out there at quarterback playing against Tampa Bay most likely would have won that game.
maybe, but I
I
said no matter who was playing here, I thought Tampa Bay would lose because look, they didn't have Jill McCoy there. They didn't have a lot of other key pieces in their defense there. To their credit, they had Mike Evans, which made good plays. I'm telling you, man, he's a great wide receiver in a bad team. The difference between him and Amari Cooper is that Derek Carr is already improving as a quarterback, whereas Winston's starting off.
and the other thing that Derek Carr has, he has Latavius Murray,
Yes.
whereas Tampa Bay doesn't have a really dominant running back.
They're going to pick early in the draft, and I have a question for you now. What will they draft? A running back or an offensive lineman? I couldn't tell you. It depends on what
If
talent there are out there.
I don't know. I don't know what year this guy is in. But if he's a junior or a senior in college, Leonard Fournette. That's a name to keep an eye on, Leonard Fournette, because he's like a 6'3", 6'4" running back at 245 and fast. His comparables are Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson.
Oh no. If they get him, they will
So
have also a big group of triplets.
think of it this way: you have a big quarterback in Jameis Winston. You would have a big running back in Fournette, and you would have two big wide receivers in Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans.
Scary, but it
And
depends.
just imagine them running all over a team. But that's Tampa. Oh
With
man.
Houston, DeAndre Hopkins scored a touchdown. Alfred Blue got a crazy touchdown going through about 4 or 5. He broke through a hole from the thanks to the line, and he broke. He had to go through zigzagging around 4 or 5 players, including the former Texan DJ Swearinger, who wanted to win this above all else. Couldn't beat them. But however, there's something to note. A lot of missed kicks here inside a dome. Though it's a retractable dome, the top part was closed that day. And Bullock missed some kicks. The Buccaneers missed the crucial field goal kick at the end of the game. They needed that, then get an onside kick to tie the game with the touchdown later. But they didn't get the first step done, so they lost. So Houston is trying out other kickers. So Randy Bullock's days may be numbered, and I knew he was not that good of a kicker. He showed promise in the end of the year, but this time it's costing them more.
Yeah, they need to get rid of Randy Bullock. He's not good. He's pretty terrible as a kicker, and I'm surprised that they didn't get rid of him last year, to be honest.
You know why? Because of how he ended the year. Against the Ravens, he had to get 6 straight field goals, including a 50-yarder, in that defensive slugfest against Baltimore last year, and he got, like, AFC Player of the Week.
Yeah,
That's why.
even with that, I still would have cut him.
Yeah, but
The, his talent on tape, it just doesn't come across. He doesn't look like a good NFL kicker. He might have been a decent college kicker. He's not an NFL kicker.
yeah, but to everything else, Mallet did better. But here's the thing: we're talking about Dwayne Brown and Foster. I'm gonna tell the viewers what I told you earlier. Um, if Dwayne Brown comes back against Atlanta, which I think is happening because what Bill O'Brien said yesterday on Monday, he said that Foster and Dwayne Brown and Brandon Brooks, which let's not count him because I don't think he's as crucial as the other two are. They said about those two that they are very close to coming back. And here's what I'm thinking. Even if Foster is healthy enough to play, they're not going to play him against Atlanta because I think Houston's given up on trying to get a wild card. They have to straight up do what Dallas and Philly are fighting for. Their division title because they're not getting into the playoffs via wild card. That looks like in AFC's case either probably the Bills because the Bills are playing good, and maybe the Chiefs, or I can't think of another team to be honest. I can't think of another team. But I think other team will emerge by that point. So they have to go for that, and in this next week, the week after is a short week because they play Indianapolis Week 5 Thursday Night Football. And that's what they're going to save Foster for. They want him to come back with very little tape, with little to no. In fact, there's nothing on Foster for this year. So that means Indy's just going to have to go off what past games he did to outpredict him. But with Dwayne Brown back, which I think will be against Atlanta, the line will go back to every other lineman will go back to where they were supposed to play, and so everything's stable again. The reason why the line's not so great is because they're playing different positions.
And then they would have a week of being together when they have Foster back and playing a really good Indy team.
Yeah, and they need this win. They need to split it if they want any shot at it. If you split with Indy, then it comes down to the rest of your games. But of course, beating them 2 times, which has never happened, could have happened. Well, they could have beat Indy last year if Fitzpatrick didn't get hurt. They can at least beat them at home. It's the best chance. Otherwise, if they can't beat them this year, let's just say, you know how I said Soldier Field is Lambeau South? This will basically be Lucas Oil Field South.
Oh, jeez.
And I don't want it to come down to that. But we'll see. Other than that, I was okay. I just want Mallet to play a little more better, get more shots down, and should not throw those balls, sometimes those short throws, at 100 miles an hour. I
Yeah.
get it. It's hard for a player to block that, but that's what leads to a lot of drop balls. Though, however, there were a lot less this week than there were against the Panthers, which good
I
on them.
mean,
Good on Houston for that.
Houston went through Stafford syndrome.
Yeah, but let's move on to the last one, the last big team. Bill, the Patriots laid down the law, showing the world and Goodell we're still here, and we are on track to beat our 2007 season in terms of offense.
I mean,
Bill,
I mean,
Bill, they dropped a 51-point bomb on the Jaguars. They punished the Jaguars for existing.
that game was over before it began. I mean,
Here's a
literally the game began and it was like, up here, have 21 points.
Okay, Bill. Here's the crazy thing. Here's a crazy stat. They did not punt once. New England.
Right?
Obviously, Jacksonville had to, but New England did not punt once. At one point, it was like touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, field goal, touchdown, end of game. I got the order wrong, no
And
doubt.
and here's the other thing that has an eerie similarity to that 2007 team is that they didn't really start putting up 50 bombs on teams until like week 3, week 4, week 5. And then they were really starting to stomp their opponents.
Yeah, and now they're doing
You know,
it. So Dion Lewis playing like a pro running back. Everyone's talking Peterson, but this guy's been was starting hot since the beginning. It's like what I say with in terms of power rankings with picking the Packers above the Cardinals and the Patriots. The Patriots and the Cardinals have had two straight blowouts. Could very well do a third one. The 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 Packers have kept the other teams in the game all the way through.
I look at the power rankings, and if Green Bay's ahead of New England and Arizona, I would just put those teams and compare them today as if they played in the Super Bowl, and I know Arizona can't play Green Bay in the Super Bowl, but let's say they played in the Super Bowl, would they defeat Arizona? And the answer is no. And New England would blow out Green Bay
I think it would
like
be a
that.
shootout, honestly.
I feel like New England will blow them out. I feel like this year they are going to be an unstoppable force.
Yeah. And plus, what did I say? Because Green Bay did beat New England last year, but here's what I say: you never will beat New England two times in a row. And
Yeah,
this is
and
this that would be round two if it happened, which Green Bay New England is very well possible. But if that happened and if New England won, I better not hear people still say Aaron Rodgers is the greatest of all time. The greatest quarterback just played him in the last Super Bowl and beat him and has 5 Super Bowl trophies by that point, whereas Aaron Rodgers would just have one. He's like this
if he
feels like the Jordan versus LeBron argument. We've talked about
if
this
he
before, Bill, but continue with what you're saying.
if Aaron Rodgers is the greatest of all time, then the greatest of all time only made it to one Super Bowl. One. One Super Bowl. You are not the greatest of all time if you make it to one Super Bowl. I it just Jim Kelly is one of the greats of all time. He went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Sure, he lost, but sure, he still went to 4 of them in a row. Dan Marino went to 2 or 3 Super Bowls. He lost them, but he's a great of all time because he went to 3. John Elway. John Elway went to like 5 or 6. He lost 4, but he won 2. Tom Brady is one of the greats of all time. Peyton Manning, another great of all
Oh, he
time.
also
He
won one
went
Super
to
Bowl.
he won one Super Bowl and lost two. He still went to three. You know, I mean,
Brady's 4 for
the great
6. He's 4 over.
the gr-
What?
the greatest of all time have multiple times that they've been in the Super Bowl. Going one for one doesn't show anything. If you were that great, no matter what team you have, you should be making the Super Bowl year after year, and you should be beating whatever defense you're playing.
They're not much of a dynasty.
You played the Seattle Seahawks. You should be able to beat the Seattle Seahawks. They have the last 2 years they haven't had an offense. And yet they couldn't beat them because here's the greatest weakness and the reason why the Green Bay Packers are never going to get to another Super Bowl and win is that their defense is a piece of trash.
That's why I say the Colts are basically the AFC version of the Packers. All offense, no defense. We don't need a defense. If we have a legendary quarterback talent, we'll be fine.
And that's the exact reason why no matter how great, quote unquote, Aaron Rodgers is, if he was super great, look at what Peyton Manning did with that defense, how bad of a defense he had constantly. Without Peyton Manning, that team's a 2-14 team.
We saw that happen too.
With Peyton Manning, they're 14-2 every year. And it was the exact same team. That's the sign of greatness. Without Aaron Rodgers, they might be 2-14, but
also, you never finished with the 3 teams in the Super Bowl. What if the Cardinals and the Patriots played? Do you know who would win? I don't know.
Cardinals and Patriots? I'd say Patriots.
Oh, it'd be close. I won't be sad if it doesn't go that way. Too sad, at least.
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick versus Bruce Arians. 2 great coaches. The coaches of all time Super Bowl right there. But
Bill Belichick would be a great.
Yeah, but to make my point, I've mentioned the Jordan versus LeBron James argument. The reason why I pick Michael Jordan is because he won in his time. Now LeBron has been in the NBA for the same time as Michael Jordan was before he left early. He retired early, and he won more finals trophies than LeBron. To me, trophies matter more than records. You can break every fucking record in the book, but sooner or later, someone's going to take your stuff. Like, Michael Jordan made records, but obviously now players like LeBron James broke them. But he hasn't won more than, 2? He hasn't won more than 2 finals trophies, right? 1 or 2?
Correct.
And and Michael Jordan has 4, right? 4, 5, 6?
Jordan, he won... They won 3 in a row. Then he retired for 2 years. And then when he came back, he won 3 in a row. Yep, 6. And had he not retired, they probably would have won the other 2.
And the Spurs dynasty would never have happened. Actually, no, I'll save that question for later. I have a question for you, and I'll let you chew on it then. Don't answer it to me right now, Bill. I want you to really think about it. So far, since these dynasties started at around the same time, which is the bigger sports dynasty? The Patriots or the Spurs dynasty? Because the Spurs dynasty is also winding down like the Patriots. And they're both gunning for one more run, which they could both win. Actually, the Spurs will win. Ha! But you know what I'm saying. Just chew on that question. I'm going to get back to it another time because I want to move on and finish with the subject of the Patriots. Okay?
Right.
Alright, I'll remind you like in a week or 2, so just chew on it. But to finish the Patriots stuff, here's another thing. Keyshawn Martin was a former Texan, traded over to New England for a 6th round pick. What does he do when he goes there? Gets the 401st, 402nd touchdown from to Keyshawn Martin.
Huh.
Leave it to New England to make what looks like a nobody player into an elite, or not an elite, but a great player to make him great. Unless Dion Lewis, because Dion Lewis is suddenly looking like an All-Pro.
Yep.
But all right, Gronk was Gronk. I don't know if he got much of it. He didn't get like 3 touchdowns like he did against the Steelers, which the Steelers was like secondary. What's that? Is that something? Is that something you melted with steel?
Gronk didn't even need to break the Jaguars' back. All he did was he just ran routes and was a decoy. The Jaguars had their back broken by everything.
Edelman did work. Amendola did work. Those two are great wide receivers, but they're very underrated. Kind of like Julio Jones, but of course Julio Jones is much better than them. But those two are still great enough to say I would put them in a top 15.
And they're and just think, the New England Patriots are still without their number 1 wide receiver,
Which is?
Brandon LaFell. And when LaFell gets healthy, then they have their number 1 deep threat receiver back, and that offense just gets even more scary.
It's more loaded to me already than the Packers. The Cardinals, I feel, are just as loaded up. Because they make Larry Fitzgerald playing like he was back when he was younger, and he's getting old, and he's playing like he's young again. He's like, I feel like I'm 25 again.
I'll put it this way. I feel like the biggest question mark with the Cardinals is their running back situation. Andre Ellington, David Johnson, Chris Johnson. That's the biggest issue right there.
What about Palmer staying healthy? I thought that's my big one.
I feel Palmer will stay healthy. I feel like the running back situation is their biggest obstacle, whereas New England is pretty established at being good with.
I'm just questioning.
I'm
just questioning the defense still for New England, which I'm not doubting it. I just want to make sure if it will handle a better offense, but. This is the perfect chance to transition to the other games of last week that we could talk about, because the Bills murdered the Dolphins. It's like, I thought the Dolphins can't. They're playing like they are in December. Too cold. The water too cold. But
yeah, I mean,
what?
Tyrod Taylor went off in that game.
And here's another fun fact: all the ex-Dolphins players that are on the Bills roster, including Richie Incognito, were named captains that week. Way to stick it to Miami, Rex Ryan. Of course, Rex Ryan will make you look bad.
Well, if you can't really stick it to one division foe, just pick on a different division foe. Now if Rex Ryan does that sort of stuff, that's fine. Pick on a lesser foe that you know that you can beat. Don't go after the people that you can't beat, you know?
Yes, and what other games are worth mentioning that?
Because
we talked Cardinals. Well, actually, we didn't talk about the actual game, just the team. Bill, I told you that the Cardinals would punish the 49ers. They only have 7 points, the 49ers, for a garbage time touchdown by Colin Kaepernick. They made him look like worse than Brian Hoyer, and that's hard to do.
I mean, seriously, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, at a point he had more completions to Arizona Cardinals than he had to his own team.
Yeah.
I mean,
two of them pick sixes.
I mean, even at the end of the game, of a trio of Anquan Bolden, Vernon Davis, and someone else, I forget. They had a total of 2 catches, and the Arizona defense had 4 catches. I mean, they outproduced the San Francisco wide receivers and tight end.
Horrible. Man, and Carson Palmer only had one real bad thing, a forced throw at the end of the half, which he didn't really need to do because we already got the game sealed. But
the game was over at halftime.
It was okay, and that's what people say about the Packers. The Packers, like, oh, they put up 50 points by the half and then stop. because they're done. That's what the Cardinals and the Patriots have been doing. And yet they're still saying the Packers are the best team. I don't buy it. Uh,
And the best thing about New England and Arizona is when they score points, they don't stop scoring points. They just beat the living crap out of your team. And if they score 65, they score 65. It's up to you to stop it.
yeah, and okay, so other games, we talked about the Seattle shutout, so we'll move away from that. The Another one, Bill. I told you the Bengals are out of all the division foes in AFC North. The Bengals are the only ones that can rough up the Ravens' feathers at Baltimore. They did it again.
Yep.
Bengals, they're saying these teams great. I think they will because the news about Ben Roethlisberger's hurt and he's going to be gone for 4 to 6 weeks. They can steal the division. If they don't, the Bengals better fire their coach, fire their offensive coordinator, fire everyone. Wipe off the slate and start clean because this team is talented. Andy Dalton doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers. Just needs to give the ball to Gio Bernard and AJ Green, and they win games.
I'm just tired of people not giving the Bengals credit. They're a good team, and Andy Dalton's a decent quarterback, and I'm kind of interested to see where they go. You know, because
the big test is January, the first game.
Yeah.
Against it seems an inevitable AFC South team, because that's their kryptonite. AFC South playoffs. That's it.
They're done Watch, they play the Indianapolis Colts
and lose like 35-28.
Something like
but,
that.
Okay, but Bill, any other games? Because the last one I could think of is Oakland.
Yep, the Oakland Raiders. Yeah, that was gonna be my one.
If Manziel was there, it might have gone it would have been overtime 27-27, and who knows what happens after that. I think it's whoever gets the ball first.
Manziel's the better quarterback.
You know what? I have a theory why they're not holding him in, because I'm gonna tell you who they play next. All right, and maybe it's better to keep them away from all those other teams. Though maybe I'm just sounding like an apologist, which, quite frankly, I want him out there. I want to see this Texas quarterback show him what's what. But let's look at the next few games they have. They have at San Diego, at Baltimore. They host the Broncos, at St. Louis, host the Cardinals, at Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, then a bye.
That's kind of brutal.
But let's see what happens after the bye. They host the Ravens. They host the Bengals, host the 49ers, at Seattle, at the Chiefs, at hosts Pittsburgh. They have all their home games after their bye. But their away games are fucking brutal. The other home games with Manziel, winnable.
I just feel that the quarterback that gives the Browns the best chance at winning is Manziel.
But I'm fine, keep him away from the ugly defenses that will hurt him. Do it. But fine, whatever. If we have to get, I don't wish McCown injuries. No, but it's that seems the only thing that'll keep him off the field, because they love him somehow. It's like Bill O'Brien with Hoyer, but they had to force him to switch, whether he wanted to or not. But yeah.
The Lions.
What?
The Lions had a McCown brother, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah, but let's go back to the game. Charles Woodson, he's old, 39. He could just retire now, and everyone will just applaud him into the Oakland sunset.
Plus he would go into the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame corner.
Put him in already. That's a nice way to end his career. But he's still gonna go. Maybe he'll make one more like that someday against a crucial game. That was a crucial game. Oakland's 2-1. They could go 3-1 this week, and I would love for that to happen.
I'd really like to see it for the Oakland fan base. They've been long suffering. I've been there. I know.
They've been in a black
I've gotten
hole of
the
negativity,
vibes.
but now they will consume all in their a lot of teams in their path into the black hole because that's what happens. The dog
And you
pound
know
just
what?
became a black void.
You know what feels good? You even when you start going like 4-1, 5-1, you're like, is this real? Can this be really
I would be
happening
like,
to
can
the?
we keep this up? I don't think they will because look, they're playing heavily good teams. They're gonna play. They're gonna be playing. Who are they playing soon? Let's check. Next week they play the Bears, of course, which is an easy one. Then next week they play. Where are they at? I think they have a bye.
They probably have a
No,
bye.
they play Denver. They host Denver. It's like that's where it starts to go to shit. But until that time, you know what? Enjoy what you got. Enjoy this. But it doesn't matter. They'll have some games that are easy towards the end, and they can go 7-9. What an improvement! And Amari Cooper maybe can win Rookie of the Year or Offensive Rookie of the Year as
Very,
long as Winston and Mariota don't do too much. Because then it's them.
very possible.
But so Amari Cooper did great. Didn't get a touchdown, but Latavius Murray got another touchdown, and Derek Carr showing so much poise against the nice Cleveland Browns front seven. And man, Khalil Mack, I saw there were also vines of him like showing what he's doing, cutting through the supposedly great Cleveland Browns offensive line and getting to Josh
Right.
McCown, sacking him a couple times. Like this dude's for real. This dude's for real. This is
Oh
the
yeah.
next Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware type of player, and I love it. The Raiders have a good
Oh yeah.
future. Not, I told you this before, and I'll say this again. And after this, we'll go into the picks. But after this season, it won't be now. It might not be next year, but sooner or later, Derek Carr, Latavius Murray, and Amari Cooper are going to be the next big triplets.
Oh yeah.
It's just
I can see
they
that
just
happening.
need two things for me to be honest: a new corner to replace Woodson, and some good offensive linemen to protect Derek Carr. You get those two things, you are playoff bound. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if you believe me, Bill. It's just that I want that line to be strong. Maybe not Dallas Cowboys strong, but good enough to know it's going to protect Derek Carr for a good chunk of games and a good chunk of the season. That's all I ask for. It's not too much.
Right.
Just two things. Give it to Oakland. I like Oakland. I don't know if you call myself a fan of them, but I like Derek Carr and I like where Amari Cooper's heading. I'm a fan of these
Yep.
players, but you know what? It's okay. But anyway, Bill, I'm ready for Week 4 picks. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's start off with Thursday night because I think you and I now have to change our game pick.
Yep. It is the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I've got nothing against Michael Vick because he has great weapons with him this time, unlike with the Jets, which all they had at that time was Eric Decker. But I don't think it's enough. Baltimore's going to capitalize. In fact, it's what we've been hearing from the media. Michael Vick, just give Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams the ball, and you'll be fine. Baltimore is expecting that. That's what you do when you have a backup. Call the run game to make sure he gets settled in and well protected. And that's what they're going to get him for. Forcing him to throw under pressure. It's going to end the same way like Brandon Weeden in Atlanta. But this probably may not be a 13-10 type of game like you think, Bill. But I'm giving it to Baltimore. They need their first win.
No, this is going to be a shootout. I feel both defenses are not super well.
They lost their
super
identity.
Good, but I feel whoever gets the ball last will probably win, and I think the Ravens will win.
Bill,
this
let me
game.
ask you something. If Baltimore doesn't make the playoffs and say go 8-8 or 9-7 or 7-9, is there a chance John Harbaugh will be fired?
It's possible.
I actually kind of want him to stay because if
I-
Pagano goes and he goes, I don't want
Yep.
John Harbaugh
Guess
here.
who-
I don't want him there.
Guess Guess who would be hired on the spot in Indianapolis?
Yeah, John Harbaugh. Now I hate saying it, but I'm wishing the Ravens success. If they can just go positive, you went 0-3 and you at least went 9-7, maybe the owners will say, fine, you kept them in the playoff hunt till the end. We'll give you another shot, please, just for this 1 year, because by then Indy will have another coach. But all right, Bill, let's jump into the Sunday Night Football. I'm already getting anxious.
Sunday in London, the New York Jets at the Miami Dolphins.
I don't know who's gonna get this, Bill. I had the Dolphins easy, but that's because I thought the Dolphins could very well go 2-1 or 3-0. But no, I'm gonna go with Jets. Jets, I'm placing my faith in you once again. Do it. Just do it. Make me believe that Dallas and Houston can beat them.
I'm going to also go the Jets, Jets, to defeat the Dolphins because that defense is terrible and it warms my heart. Just like how warm it is in Miami for Ndamukong Suh. But continuing on to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis
The Jags
Colts.
could upset them, maybe, but because remember last year, the Jags only held them to 3 points for a good chunk of the game, but then but then Luck got his shit together and won. The Jags need to do that again, but this time Blake Bortles needs to put up some fucking points. But I don't know if that'll happen. I'm giving it to the Colts. They're gonna go 2-2.
Here we go. I got a shootout between the Jaguars and the Colts win by 3, 38-35.
They're winning ugly games. If that's
Yep.
true, because they barely win against these teams that you say are really bad. That's not a good sign.
The Colts defense is god awful.
I hope.
But
I hope it's exploited, but let's go on.
next up, the New York Giants at the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, Buffalo's gonna make these guys look like a joke. Odell Beckham's gonna get a ball stolen away from him, and Eli Manning's gonna get sacked 2 times, even if his offensive line is no slouch. I've got Buffalo.
Here comes a stampede of points by Tyrod Taylor and the Buffalo Bills. I got them winning.
See what happens when you take a chance? Sometimes miracles happen. Next game.
Yep. Next up, the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Carolina has such an easy schedule, going 4-0 to the bye. So I'm going to give it to Carolina, but I would love if Jameis Winston could just steal this one from Cam Newton.
I got the Carolina Panthers defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just don't see how Tampa's unbeaten.
Enjoy
Carolina.
the undefeated record while it lasts, because it's going to go away really fast.
Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Football Team.
Philly's going to go 2-2. I can't tell who I'd rather win this game. I would love for it to be a tie, but I'm not calling a tie this year at all. Maybe next year. I'm going Philly.
Philly's offense finally gets on track.
When they don't use DeMarco Murray.
Against the Washington Football Team's defense, and they still start Kirk Cousins on offense. So I got the Eagles.
Hey, if Washington runs the football like they should have against New York, they might stay in this and could steal it too. There's a couple games here that can go potential upsets. This one, Bucks game, and the Jags game.
Next up, the Oakland Raiders at the Chicago Bears.
Go 3-1, Oakland. Go 3-1. Beat the Bears. Enjoy this winning record while you have it, and don't lose it. Seriously. They probably won't have Cutler starting, and even if they do, just knock him out, sack him 2 or 3 times like you will Clausen. I have the Raiders with Amari Cooper getting 2 touchdowns, just making an offensive MVP case stronger.
The Chicago Bears are on their way to an 0-16 season, and the Oakland Raiders are on their way to a victory. Oakland.
Yeah.
Next up, the Houston Texans at the Atlanta
I'm believing
Falcons.
Dwayne Brown comes in to keep the line stable, and if that happens, I think Houston could take it away from Atlanta in Atlanta. The NFC South always drops big games when they should have it in the bag. I think this is it. As long as Houston keeps that strong defense upheld and they double team Julio Jones, they will win. I'm going Houston. But this game doesn't matter. The big one is on Thursday, so if they lose, I will not be too upset unless it's a blowout. Please don't be a blowout.
And I've got the Atlanta Falcons defeating the Houston Texans because I feel Julio's on go off and Devontae is a better running back than Tevin Coleman. And I just feel that that could happen, and I can see this being a really close game, like really close. I don't think it's gonna be high scoring. I think it's gonna be like a 2017
I mean,
game.
I say my case is, for God's sakes, the Cleveland Browns with Hoyer. Right? Was it Hoyer? I think beat Atlanta in Atlanta with the artificial crowd noise going in. So I think Houston can steal this one. Plus, like I said, Atlanta's played bad defenses before this, so this is their real test.
Oh man! All right, so here we go. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Cincinnati tearing shit apart. This is a better defense that they played in a while, but I've got Cincy beating KC.
And I have Kansas City defeating Cincinnati.
Oh,
I feel that Kansas City is going to look to avenge the humiliation that they got in Green Bay
and Denver.
and they're done, and Denver, and they're done be out for blood. So I feel that's what's going to happen, and they're going to get a win against Cincinnati.
All right.
Next up, the 4 o'clock games. The Cleveland Browns at the San Diego Chargers.
San Diego has to get their shit together here. They'll definitely win this.
And I also have San Diego. Until they start Manziel and you have a McCown starting, I'm not picking you, San Diego. Next up, the Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco about to get pummeled again. This is basically the West Coast Lambeau Field. It's what's going to feel like here, just with lots of red.
Oh,
I have
man.
Green Bay just absolutely dominating the 49ers.
I have Green Bay destroying the 49ers. If that other game was any proof, the 49ers are done. Next up, the St. Louis Rams at the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, here's the warning. It was this same game last year that got Palmer hurt. They better put extra linemen to keep him safe. This Rams defense has been for real for years. Do not let them touch him. You don't want to lose you don't want to lose this shot too at the Super Bowl. I have Arizona beating the Rams here.
I also have Arizona defeating the Rams, and it's going to be this is the bloodbath. The other game is that I entitled the bloodbath has lost its title. This is the new bloodbath.
Yep.
Next up, the Minnesota Vikings at the Denver
Before I
Broncos.
make my pick, I have a question. If it's a bloodbath with the Cardinals, would anyone notice the blood on them? They're already red. They in the blood of thine enemy. I have the Broncos in a defensive slugfest. This is probably going to be 13-10 right here, but I have Denver winning this one. Adrian Peterson not doing nothing.
I also have the Denver Broncos winning in a defensive game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be but it's going to be a Broncos win.
All right, next game.
Next up, the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys at the New Orleans
This would have been a
Saints.
game they would have loved to change to, I don't know, maybe the Chiefs and the Bengals. but they can't.
anything.
5 week rule. You can't change the first 5 week schedules under no circumstance. I have Dallas winning because I don't think Drew Brees will play. And in terms of better skills on both sides of the ball, Dallas has it in spades. And plus, the Saints suck at home. If this were a road game, I would have given it to the Saints. But no, the Cowboys shall win.
Again, my golden rule: if a McCown starts for your team, I pick against you. And McCown starts for the Saints, I'm picking the Cowboys. It's very simple. they overall, I have no faith in whichever McCown's starting for the Saints. I have I have a little more faith in Brandon Whedon than I have in a McCown.
Yep. All right, Bill. Monday night.
And then the Monday night game, the Detroit Lions at the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm sorry, Bill. I told you they needed this win for the sake of momentum, and if they won last week, I would have picked them to be this week's winners. I have Seattle beating the Lions.
I also have Seattle beating the Lions because I'm not picking the Lions until they show me something.
Yeah, but all right, Bill. Now I must
All right.
ask that we go check Week 5's Thursday Night Football in case we're not around for that.
All right. So week 5 is Thursday night is Indianapolis at the Houston Texans.
I have, with Foster returning, going to make the Indy defense look like trash. What if Indy's playing this bad because Pagano doesn't want to stay, and he wants them to go out badly? I have Houston stealing this, whereas everything finally gels down together, and Houston gets the first big win of the season against their own division.
And for now, because I want to see how Indy performs this week, because this is a very much up in the air pick, but I've got Indy beating Houston, but it's definitely not locked down as being Indy because I'm like 50-50 right on the fence.
Yeah, if they either lose badly or barely or win barely against Jacksonville, I can see Houston stealing this. But okay, so what?
I mean, I just want to see how they perform this week because that will inform.
I want to
my
see if
next
Foster
week's
will be
decision.
back for this one. I think he is. Like I said, they're going to keep him back from Atlanta because they don't want him to risk getting hurt. They want him for this game. They must win Indy. They must win against Indy once to take the division. But all right, that'll do it. Do you have anything else to add, Bill?
Nope, I think I'm good.
This week of games got a lot less interesting on one hand because so many quarterbacks are gone. I think every week a big quarterback's going down. And if I have to guess this week's, I shouldn't. This is bad to say. I'm gonna guess Eli Manning. He's gonna go down because that Bills defense is just. It does not. It hunts for blood. But okay. I will leave it at that. Next week we'll cover week 5, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.